Hello, we are live. I'm trying to look to see if it gave a notification because it's about an hour late, but it is what it is. Um, we're going to do open mic night tonight, Lori Vallow edition. So we're going to talk all things Lori Vallow. We are going to have this will be an open mic night or a call-in show. So we're going to kick it off by watching her opening statements together. From there, we will drop the link in the chat, and anyone who wants to scream into the internet, well, please don't scream because I have on earbuds, but anyone that wants to chime in about Lori, her trial, her case, or anything related, feel free to join the link and come in and talk about her. I have Lee B here with me today. She is here to help me make fun of Lori Vallow.
It's the best thing to do.
Yeah,
thank you.
If you haven't spent the last 5 years making fun of Lori Vallow, like we have, it might not feel as fun to you, but it's our favorite pastime.
Well, it's not just Lori Vallow; it's like any of the suspects, but definitely Lori Vallow with her ramen noodle hair. And I'm trying to figure out what she did with her hair. I know you mentioned it. It looked like she had maybe clips in her hair or extensions or something. It does look fuller. Maybe it's the ponytail on top. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't. It's so. She's my favorite person to make fun of, I think. But I think they give us a lot to work with between her and Chad and Melanie Gibb and all of their dorky friends with their big LARPs. I have to keep pausing to stop myself from having guideline violations for saying 4-letter words. All right. I'm gonna pull this down, and we're gonna play her opening statement, and then from there we'll make fun of that, and then we'll drop the link in the chat for anyone else that wants to come up and share their thoughts.
Oh yeah.
PDM, can you throw the video up? I'll put this in the meantime while we wait.
We ready to bring in the jury?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. Let's bring in the jury.
I think you need to go full screen, and then I'll take this down. All right, so we're going to watch Lori give her opening statement that Nate Eaton said someone counted, and 75 times she said the evidence will show.
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, I have been charged with a crime, a serious crime. And the only question here is, did I commit this crime? Conspiracy. Conspiracy is an agreement between two or more people to commit a crime. There has to be an agreement. There has to be a plan. The evidence in this case will show that Charles Vallow and I got married in February 2006. It will show that it was my fourth marriage and Charles' third marriage. At that time, we each had 2 children. I had Colby, who was 9, and Tylee, who was 3. Charles had Cole, who was also 9, and Zach, who was 7. The evidence will show that our family moved from Austin, Texas to Chandler, Arizona in 2009. The evidence will show that Charles and I adopted our great-nephew, JJ, who was born in 2012. It will also show that Charles and I were married for over 13 years and were raising 5 children. The evidence will show that I was a licensed cosmetologist and worked as a hairstylist for 20 years while we lived in Austin, Texas. The evidence will show that Charles was a licensed life insurance salesman and worked as an independent contractor, selling life insurance policies and annuities, and owned his own business. The evidence will show that Charles and I purchased life insurance policies early in our marriage, and Charles had them issued to the maximum amount possible to each of us. The evidence will show that Charles was 17 years older than me, and that because of Charles' age and an issue that he had with high blood pressure, the maximum amount of life insurance that could be approved for Charles was $1 million. The maximum amount of life insurance that I could be approved for because of my age and my health was $2 million. The evidence will show that throughout our 13-year marriage, that we always had life insurance policies. When a 10-year policy lapsed, Charles would shop for another company who would approve us for the maximum amount of life insurance. The evidence will show that this was Charles' job. This is what he did. I helped him in this business, and this is what he did. The evidence will show that in 2016, Charles repurchased a new $2 million life insurance policy on me, and he was the sole beneficiary. The evidence will show that Charles and I had a happy marriage for 13 years, that he was, in fact, a baseball player, and that he played high school, college ball, and AAA ball, and that he was, in fact, a left-handed pitcher, a southpaw, they call him, but he was a right-handed batter, as could be attested to by anybody who knew Charles well and his high school baseball coach, Greg Davis. The evidence will show that Tylee was, and in 2014, our family moved from Chandler, Arizona to Kauai, Hawaii. We lived there for 3.5 years and returned to Chandler in 2017. The evidence will show that Tylee was 3 years old when Charles and I got married, and that when she became a teenager, the relationship between Tylee and her stepfather, Charles, became so difficult that Tylee and Charles had to seek a therapist, a family therapist, to stop them from fighting. The evidence will show that together, Charles and Tylee met with this therapist after we moved back to the mainland in 2017. The evidence will show that in April of 2018, Tylee's biological father passed away from a heart attack. And at that time, Charles called Social Security and made an appointment at the Social Security
I'm going to
office.
object to hearsay.
Sustained.
It will show that we did get Social Security for Tylee for her deceased father until she was 18 years old, and she was 15 years old at the time. The evidence will show that Charles and Tylee's fighting increased greatly in January of 2019 when Charles and I temporarily separated. The evidence will show that several people witnessed these terrible arguments between Tylee and Charles that increased to physical in 2019. Charles and Tylee had major increasing arguments, 2 in February of 2019, 1 of March in 2019, which was captured on video, 1 in May of 2019, 1 in June of 2019, and then the worst of all in July 2019. The evidence will show that in March of 2019, Charles pulled JJ out of his special school and moved him to Houston, Texas, while we were temporarily separated. Tylee and I then joined Charles and JJ in Texas in April 2019 to reconcile. The evidence will show that JJ was diagnosed with severe autism when he was 3 years old while we lived in Hawaii. The evidence will show that for 2 years, JJ was attending a school in Gilbert, Arizona, a special school for children with autism. It's called Lauren's Life Academy. The evidence will show that in June of 2019, in JJ's best interest, Tylee, JJ, and I moved back to Chandler, Arizona to re-enroll JJ back in Lauren's Life Academy since he had a difficult time with the Houston, Texas schools with no services for his autism. The evidence will show that Charles and I agreed it was in JJ's best interest to be in school where more services were available to him, so Charles and I rented a house here in Chandler. On the day in question, July 11th, 2019, Charles and I were renting 2 houses, one in Houston, Texas, where he mainly resided, and one in Chandler, Arizona, where I resided with our 2 minor children, Tylee and JJ. By this time, our 3 older boys, Colby, Cole, and Zach, were adults and not living at home any longer. The evidence will show that during the months of June and July, that my husband, Charles Vallow, began to send me threatening text messages. These messages were seen by my sister Summer, and that worried her. The evidence will show that Charles insisted on flying into Phoenix on July 10th, as we've heard from the state, The evidence will show that I advised Charles that he could not stay with us at the Chandler house because he could not get along with Tylee, and I did not want them to get into another fight like they had 3 weeks prior. The evidence will show that it was ultimately decided between Charles and I on text messages that he would stay in a hotel because he traveled for business all the time and stayed in hotels all the time, and that I would book it for him since I worked for him and booked all of his travel. The evidence will show that Charles did in fact fly into Phoenix on Wednesday, July 10th, and stayed in the hotel that I booked for him. The evidence will show that Charles paid to fly my brother Adam Cox into Phoenix from Kansas on the same day, Wednesday, July 10th, 2019. The evidence will show that Charles planned to come to our Chandler home and pick up JJ and drive him to school on Thursday morning, July 11th, 2019. The evidence will also show you that Lauren's Life Academy opens its gates at 8:25 a.m. in the morning. And the evidence will show that Charles showed up at our Chandler residence around 7:30 in the rental car I booked for him on the morning of Thursday, July 11th, 2018. The evidence will show that Charles began texting with my brother, Adam Cox, before he entered our residence. And that Charles and Adam were discussing in their text communications that my other brother, Alex Cox, was at the residence. The evidence will show that on the morning of July 11th, that Tylee was asleep in her room and my brother Alex was asleep in the guest room. The evidence will show that when Charles entered the house, only JJ and I were awake and present. The evidence will show that after we put JJ in the rental car, that Charles came back into the residence to receive his phone, leaving JJ in the front seat of the rental car with the engine running. He was 7 years old. The evidence will show that Charles began to scream at me when I refused to hand him his phone. The evidence will show that Charles' screaming woke up Tylee and Alex. The evidence will show that Tylee came out of her room with a bat to protect me, her mother, from her stepfather, Charles Vallow. The evidence will show that Tylee and Charles fought over the bat, and that after a struggle over the bat, Tylee fell onto the ground, and Charles lifted up the bat to hit Tylee with the bat. The evidence will show that Alex then intervened to protect Tylee from being hit with the bat. He did not have a gun. He was not wearing a shirt. He was pulling up his jeans because he just woke up and came into the room where he heard the screaming. The evidence will show that Alex and Charles got into a physical struggle for the bat and fell onto the ground. The evidence will show that Tylee, who was on the ground, was lifted up by me and sent outside to get away from the struggle and to protect JJ, who was still in the running car, in the rental car in the driveway. The evidence will show that after this struggle on the ground between Charles and Alex, that Charles prevailed with the bat and began to come towards me with the bat as I ran away from him into the kitchen. The evidence will show that at some point while I was running away from Charles, who was chasing me with the bat, that Alex apparently retrieved his gun. The evidence will show that I ran outside to the children and that Alex shot Charles in self-defense. The evidence will show that Tylee and I had both run outside without shoes. The evidence will show that JJ was still in the front seat of the rental car with the engine running and struggling to get out of the car. Tylee was trying to keep him in. The evidence will show that Tylee and I got into the rental car with JJ and drove away. The evidence will show you that I drove the children away from the residence towards JJ's school. Can I grab a cushion?
Yes.
The evidence will show that I drove the children through the Burger King drive-thru that Charles had promised JJ. The evidence will show that we continued to drive towards JJ's school and that the gate was not yet open at JJ's school. So we drove a block west of the school to a Walgreens where I ran in to purchase flip-flops for Tylee and myself so that we could walk JJ into school on the hot pavement. The evidence will show that Tyler and I returned directly to our residence where we met with police in our driveway. The evidence will show that we were spoken to by the Chandler police officers. And the evidence will show that Tyler and I were told by the Chandler police detectives that Charles had passed away. The evidence will show that we were put into a police van and driven to the Chandler Police Department. The evidence will show that Alex was taken by police in a police car to the Chandler Police Department. And that we were all three separated into interrogation rooms and we were each interviewed. The evidence will show that next, Tylee and I were brought back together into a room at the Chandler Police Department and were introduced to a victim's advocate who was very kind to us. The evidence will show that after speaking to the victim's advocate, that Tylee, Alex, and myself were put back into the police van and driven back to our residence. We were directed by the Chandler detectives to take the rental car and return later to the residence after we picked up JJ from school. The evidence will show that we did as instructed by the Chandler detectives. The evidence will show that we drove to Alex's residence where we attended to the wound on the back of his head. The evidence will show that Alex was then contacted by the Chandler detectives to return to the residence so that Alex could walk them through the events that occurred with the detectives at the residence. The evidence will show that Alex, Tylee, and I did return to the residence as instructed. And the evidence will show that Alex entered into the residence with Detective Moffett, but that Tylee and I were met by Detective Inkland in the front yard. The evidence will show that at the time, Detective Inkland asked Tylee and myself if we had Charles' cell phone. Tylee retrieved Charles' cell phone from the rental car and gave it to Detective Inkland at 3:11 p.m. on July 11th, 2019. And at that time, Charles' phone was placed in the custody of Chandler police detectives. The evidence will show that Detective Inkland asked us if we knew the passcode on Charles' phone, which Tylee proceeded to give to Detective Inkland. The evidence will show that Tylee and I left the residence to pick up JJ from school, while Alex remained at the residence with the detectives. The evidence will show that by the time Tylee, JJ, and I returned to the residence, that all police, EMS, CSI, and detectives were gone from the residence and only Alex remained. The evidence will show that the next day, I contacted Chandler police to inform them that Charles' belongings were still at the hotel. I asked the detective if I should go get them, and I was told that they would take care of it. The evidence will show that I asked the detectives, what should we do next? And they directed us that they would contact us in about 3 weeks after their supervisor passed off their reports and Alex could go to the police station and retrieve his gun. The evidence will show that the last thing I heard from Chandler Police Department until June of 2021, 2 years later, when I received a grand jury indictment from them for this alleged crime. The evidence will show that Chandler Police treated this incident as self-defense.
I'm going to object to that.
The objection sustained. The jury should disregard that last statement.
The evidence will show you that my brother, Alex Cox, passed away on December 12th, 2019, almost exactly 5 months to the day after Charles, my husband, passed away. The evidence will show that Alex passed away from a blood clot in his lung.
Objection again.
I'll sustain the objection. It's not relevant for this matter.
The evidence will show you that I am the only person being charged with this crime.
I'm going to object to the relevance of that.
Sustain.
As the state has mentioned, they are alleging that insurance money was my motive. Social Security was my motive. Spouses having insurance policies is not a crime. Collecting Social Security is not a crime. Self-defense is not a crime. A family tragedy is not a crime. It's a tragedy. Thank you.
All right, the state can call its first witness.
Thank you. If I may go get him.
Okay, that was her ridiculous testimony. I think what aggravated me about her opening, I don't know about you, Lee, but it was like she was just saying irrelevant shit. Like Charles was 17 years older than her. Okay, and what does that have to do with anything? And why would the evidence show that? Like, what does that matter? It's like she was saying things that were factual so she could like slip in things that weren't factual, if that makes sense.
Issues. Yeah, the whole objection to Alex's death. Yeah, that's and yeah, she was just making stupid statements. I mean, her first time representing herself, probably her only time, I hope. Um,
Yeah.
just too much bullcrap coming out of her mouth.
I'm curious if she's going to represent herself for Brandon, but when I was listening to that, I started thinking about, now I'll admit I missed the second to last day of trial. So this may have been presented, but like, I don't remember them ever presenting that Charles had a $2 million life insurance policy on her. Like, I don't remember them talking about that. I don't remember anything about them having a happy marriage. I don't remember any evidence of Tylee and Charles seeing a therapist. Nothing about his school. And then someone in chat pointed out, which I did not catch, but someone else did, that she went and the evidence showed that she went into Walgreens wearing flip-flops.
Yeah. So what was Tylee wearing on her feet, or did she just go in by herself? I don't remember. I didn't watch the entire trial. I caught snippets here and there when I could.
Mm-hmm. I tried to watch almost all of it. There was just one day I just couldn't. I had shit going on. And then I asked people if I should catch up, and they all said no, it was boring. So I was like, okay, well, I'm not going to bother. I'll be honest, I kind of hoped that Lori would be a little more crazy. Like, it's infuriating when she is, but I also was kind of hoping for a little Daryl Brooks action out of her.
I think her wearing that shock belt kept her in line. She didn't want to be embarrassed because she's the type of person who doesn't want to be embarrassed. I think maybe that's why she stated all that in the opening statement with the whole evidence will show thing, because she didn't want to be embarrassed. She knows she did it. She's just, she's crazy.
Megan has a picture of her black sandals walking into Walgreens. I don't even understand. I did feel she did some things okay, like better than I expected. Like, my perception of her was definitely from her statement at sentencing, and then some of her interviews, which you could tell she was very, I wouldn't say
Flirty.
crazy, but you could definitely tell she was hard to control, I guess. But you're right. Maybe it was that shock belt that got her in line, because she was a lot more demure than I expected her to be. It was like she was cosplaying an attorney while she was there.
A great choice of words there. Yeah, she was just watching her and the way she was questioning, it was kind of painful for me to watch.
Yeah.
Not to watch her, painful because she didn't have, it's more like you're embarrassing yourself. You have no leg to stand on. And I know that nobody could mention what she had already been convicted of. They couldn't mention the previous trial, which kind of sucks. But at the same time, the whole due process but
I did watch a little bit of her jury instruction, like where they were talking about the jury instruction. I don't know if you
yeah.
saw that, but I was a little surprised. I feel like the judge was trying to help her a little bit by I feel like he was trying in a way to kind of help her around, like, to explain why some witnesses weren't there. And she ended up agreeing with the prosecution that it would be best not to make any special instruction to the jury around the witnesses. But I mean, it's like, whatever, you can't fix stupid. I out of the witnesses that you were able to watch, which one was your fate? Like, did you think was the best for the state or showed Lori's crazy the most?
I would say the oh, I can't remember her name. Charles's date. Oh wait,
Nancy Joe?
Nancy Joe. And she just don't flatter yourself, Lori. Um, repeat that question again. I was sidetracked by coffee.
No, you answered it. I was just wondering, like, which witness you thought was the best for the state, or which was the most interesting to watch.
The most interesting, absolutely Nancy Joe, because I watched that like 3 times. It's probably why I didn't catch up on everything else.
Mm-hmm.
But that was just the way she handled herself. Like, I'm not buying your bullshit, kind of
Mm-hmm.
thing. Um, also, um, oh, who was it? The paramedic. Just trying to, prove, making this, or not the paramedic, whoever it was that was stating that, finding Charles the way he was. Oh, what's that? I can't remember who it was. Holy crap, it's been a blur. Just because it's just horrible to watch her and listen to her.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she's definitely hard to listen to. Um, I I thought the bat expert was I don't think she was the bat expert, but it was a woman. She was law enforcement. She talked forever about there not being fingerprints on the bat, and I'm like, then shut up. What are we all listening to this for if you have no evidence to share? Why is this going on for what felt like an eternity? I heard people like were getting up in the courtroom and leaving even. Like that felt like a good time to take a snack break.
I'm all for snacks. Another one, there were little snippets here and there. Nancy Joe was my favorite. When Kay said the last time she talked to JJ, and it just absolutely the way she said it without saying he's dead, it's because of you. It was her tone, it was her delivery, really drove it in. So, and I've stated this in the group before that I know if I was a juror and after a case was over, I'd start digging. And I'm hoping these jurors do, um, just to see where this came from. It's hard to believe that so many people haven't heard about Lori and Chad.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
Yeah, I thought about that today. Just as long as this has been going on, which I know we've been very deep in the Lori Vallow lore for years now. But I find it hard to believe that all this time later, people that they're like in the local area have not heard of that case. They were able to find jurors, but I'm surprised. They threw up this picture. So Megan sent this over. There is Lori walking into Walgreens with sandals on, but yet she claimed that evidence would show she had to go to Walgreens to buy these sandals because of the hot pavement.
they're black sandals in the video, and on her feet are white ones.
Yeah, it
What's
looks like
that?
maybe she's got like a yeah, either black sandal or some kind of dress shoe. like little strappy sandal type thing, and then she's got on Walgreen flip-flops. I wonder, did they ever introduce any evidence around those black shoes she was wearing? Or was there something that came out in the FOIA that she threw them away? Why am I thinking suddenly there was something to do with shoes once before? Does anyone in chat remember? Maybe I'm going insane.
Oh, sorry, I was just interrupted. Somebody asked if they could cut one of my roses. At least they asked this time.
Oh, that's very nice. I had someone
Totally
ask me.
unrelated.
I had someone ask me the other day if they could have a plant clipping. It's like, take the whole thing. Do not want it. I don't know how it's even alive. Steph B says that she hates to say it, but she didn't think there were any big gotcha moments from the witnesses. I would agree with that. I thought Nancy and Adam were probably the most interesting. They were the two that kind of had something new to add that weren't involved in the other trials. Um, I I thought Adam was probably the best witness for the state as far as yes and no questions. He wasn't offering a lot of extra. And so I think that kind of made it a little bit harder for Lori to pick up on something. Because it seemed like my perception was it was like she didn't really have a plan for questioning these witnesses. She would just keep digging around and like trying to provoke something. Like she would try to find some sort of little thread that she could argue semantics with them about.
That's another one I need to watch as Adam. I've been meaning to. I slept too late today and tried to catch up on my housework instead of the trial, and I really wanted to catch up on the trial. But yeah, I'll have to watch that and listen to what Adam has to say. I know he's gotten a lot of flack. His son Zach got a lot of flack. In the beginning, a lot of information wasn't available, so we're going on what was stated.
Mm-hmm.
But I know initially when Adam started speaking about everything, he had stated that he didn't know about Charles's death until the day after.
Mm-hmm.
And if that's all he was doing yes or no answers, that I really have to watch that now because
There was one part where I felt like Lori was kind of trying to pick something with him. Like that, I don't know if you saw like in the group and just around people talking about the white chicken enchiladas.
yes.
But she tried to act like she had these, like they had some conversation or she was trying to open up the door at some point over these white chicken enchiladas. And he was like, no, I don't remember. I mean, he totally like Mariah Carey. I don't know her. He was like, I don't know these enchiladas. And she seemed like really kind of offended that he would not agree with her that he'd had these enchiladas. But I guess Colby came. I didn't watch this, but I saw someone posted in True Crime Underground that Colby called her white chicken enchiladas mid at best, which anyone that's bragging about white chicken enchiladas, doesn't that kind of tell you everything you need to know about their cooking as it is? If
Yeah.
that's their signature dish.
Yeah. I'm just thinking because I'm always trying new dishes and that's not no, that's not something to brag about. That'd be like I'm broke kind of meal for
Like, don't you
me.
remember? Don't you remember those hot dogs I made you one time? You said I had made the best hot dogs. Like, it's such a
The fancy mustard and the freshly made ketchup. Those are so
yeah,
bomb. It's a hot
yeah.
dog.
He wasn't going for it. He claimed he had no memory of these. And she like kind of doubled down on it. Like she was very offended. Like he told her baby was ugly or something because she was like, I made him every time for 10 years or something like that. And he was like, okay, don't remember.
Oh my gosh. I remember reading that in TCU and I'll have to watch that now. because that's funny. It's kind of like a sibling nitpick. That's what it sounds like. I'll have to watch it.
Well, that's kind of what I thought is like, if anyone knows how to get under your skin, it's your sibling.
Yes.
And I felt like he knew how to gray rock her, and he wasn't entertaining any of her BS. Like, he knows his sister, he knows what she's trying to do, and go play with somebody else. Megan said she was waiting the entire trial for Lori to open up the door on information about Tylee and JJ being deceased. I was too. She did not. That's what makes me think she might not be, you know, I definitely think she has some mental illness. I think that there's definitely mental illness there, but I mean, she was with it enough to not open up that door during the entire trial.
Yeah, and it. Oh, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
I was going to say, with Charles stating what he stated about Lori, saying she could kill him right now, and the way she was acting towards him, but not towards other family members, it was like it was targeted. Like her crazy was targeted, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
And she was trying to target, like in the trial, she was holding it under, but targeting it in certain ways. That's the feeling I get from what I've seen so far.
Yeah, I feel like she kept kind of reverting back to like, did you see it with like, I don't know, just the way she was asking questions. Like she like asked, I don't remember if it was Christina or the other chick. I keep getting them confused, Serena or Christina. She was like, did you hear it with your own ears? It's like, I mean, she probably did at your little witch seance parties that you guys aren't talking about, your little menopause reversal sessions that you guys were all doing, where they were praying the zombies out and turning back time on aging.
It still gets me, the whole thing, and her special cookies.
Mm-hmm. I think one of the most ridiculous things that I have been hung up on for a really long time since the documents came out from Arizona. I don't know if you ever read this. I'm sure you've heard me rant about this, but there was a text thread between Zulema and Lori that got released. And basically, they were making fun of, I keep getting them confused. I think it was Serena. They were making fun of her because she was saying that she was aging backwards and she was translated and she was on to the next level. Excuse me. And that her menstrual cycle was getting more like a teenager. And Lori and Zulema were like mean girl making fun of her. Not that the whole thing was ridiculous, but that it was only happening to them. And she was lying. But it was totally a thing for them. And it was just like almost unbelievable to read two women in their 50s make such ridiculous comments about turning back time and reverse aging due to translation. Oh, that was. Go ahead, Lee.
I just obviously they don't understand biology. You can't reverse that.
No, they were.
I'm dumbfounded at the whole thing. It just the whole thing, and how
Yeah.
Zulema just kind of dropped off the face of the earth.
Yeah, I can't believe that Zulema, Melanie Gibb, Jason Mao, I can't believe none of those people were called for witnesses for either side, especially Gibb. But, Gibb is my, number one
She's
hater.
full of it. Yeah, she's full
I
of it.
love to hate on Gibb. I think she's such a liar. And I can't believe that she has the nerve to pretend like she didn't know what was happening. I
She
think at least
absolutely
Zulema,
knew.
well, I think Zulema and those guys, at least they're like criminal enough. Like, even if they're lying, they're smart enough to pretend like they fell victim to this whole scam and LARP. But Gibble sat there with the police and she's like, oh, I never believed it. I never believed it for a second. And it's like, well, you were right in the middle of it all. And so if you didn't believe it, then why didn't you do something? Like, to me, that's worse than if you believed it.
Yeah. Don't act like you're an outsider looking in and not say a word to anybody or help. She's. It's probably a good thing she wasn't called by the state.
Mm-hmm.
It's, oh man.
Yeah, I thought for a while maybe she wasn't called. I thought, I don't know what I thought, but I was disappointed. But I want to shift a little bit because Megan said that the $200 bamboo shirt that Lori got fixated on was funny. Did you see that part of the trial?
No, I didn't.
So basically, they had like a gun expert, some sort of expert, there explaining that the type of exit wound. And so essentially, they were saying like Charles had to be laying down on the hard surface when this happened because of the type of exit wound. Well, when it was Lori's time to cross examine, she started asking him if he knew that Charles wore $200 bamboo shirts and if he tested the fabric on those shirts to ensure that it couldn't have made those type of wounds. It was like, Lori, just sit down.
Oh, yes, I remember that. I remember because he was talking about how if the bullet went in, if there was resistance, the bullet wouldn't go far, or it would go only so far. And if, like a ricochet type deal. I do remember that because I was like, how can, as soon as she said something about the shirt and the wound, I'm like, what is she talking about? A bullet is a bullet. It doesn't matter. And it's like, unless it's a desert eagle, we won't even go there. But the whole discussion about there wasn't a lot of blood. Well, who cleaned it up? If there was an
Mm-hmm.
exit wound, who cleaned it up?
Yeah. It was sad to hear, definitively from these experts that Charles laid there for 45 minutes. I mean, that's what it looked like when we read the documents, but you can always make a mistake when you're reading something. But to hear the experts testify that they just left him laying there for 45 minutes and doesn't really track with a self-defense argument.
No, it doesn't. I'm wondering if they waited that long because he was still alive. No, he couldn't have been because one of the bullets, I was reading the report, one of the bullets went through his heart, his lung. That was fatal.
Mm.
He wouldn't have been able to live through that. But why did they wait 45 minutes? That's unless it was buying Lori and Alex time. Or
Yeah.
what, I don't know.
Well, I've never really understood her defense of like that she took his phone and was reading his text messages and running around. Like, everyone knows if you take someone's phone, especially like according to her, they were kind of living separately. She takes his phone and she's running around and she won't give it back, but then claiming that he is mad. Well, anyone is going to be mad if you do that. I mean, I don't think he was really trying to attack them, but anyone would want their phone back. That's a pretty natural reaction that if your ex spouse grabs your phone and starts going through it, you're going to tell them to mind their business and try to get your phone back.
Well, yeah. Yeah, and if anybody is, and I'm assuming these jurors are well versed in the law, that if someone takes your phone and won't give it back to you and you need to leave, it's almost like oh, what is it I'm looking for? It was right there and I lost it. if he needed to make an emergency call, he wouldn't be able to. She didn't have a house phone. She had a cell phone. Tylee had a cell phone.
Mm-hmm.
Alex had a cell phone. So it's like prohibiting somebody from, I can't remember how it's worded, but anyway, yeah, she had no reason to keep his phone. She was looking for those messages between him and Nancy Joe, and she was looking for reasons. And I want to know exactly what was said. I mean, he was yelling to get his phone back, but there
Mm-hmm.
must have been some accusations from her. I want to know every little detail of the case, everything that happened, like word for word in their argument, because she's guilty no matter what. And I do wonder if she did fire a bullet into him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've always kind of wondered if Lori was more of an active participant, but it doesn't sound like Arizona was able to prove that, or else they would have presented that at trial. So it sounds like that will forever be kind of unknown of what she, if she actually did play a part in the murder beyond the conspiracy setup piece. I was really disappointed that the state did not show the dancing video that she was sending to Chad, that Charles was like had found and like sent around. I am so disappointed. I should write an angry letter to the state of
Please
Arizona, to the prosecutor
please
about
do. Please
it.
do. Because has anyone ever seen it? I don't remember it ever surfacing.
I don't think we've ever seen it. I've heard that Kay has seen it, and I think maybe a couple of family members have seen it, like perhaps the folks that Charles sent it to, when he was trying to prove that Lori was, and I could be remembering that detail wrong as well, but I think a couple people have seen it, and I think that I held out hope that that would be presented at trial and we would finally get to see, I don't think that Lori was doing anything super spicy. I mean, we read their
We've heard her sing.
Well, we've heard her saying we read their like weird text and letters to one another, like their I don't even know what to call it, like I don't know, their love letters, I guess is the nicest way I can put it. So I don't imagine that her dancing was that inappropriate. I think it was probably like some kind of weird church girl dance that Chad enjoyed, but many others would not. But I mean, so I say that like I don't think it was like that way, like perverted, like I wanted to see it, just to be clear. But I thought it was something we could all laugh at and enjoy together. I thought it would be fun for the community to see what she was sending Chad. Because didn't someone say at one point that when she had kind of lost it, she was dancing for like hours a day in front of the mirror? Like
Oh yeah.
going to the temple hours a day, dancing in the mirror hours a day.
Yeah, she was spending a lot of time at the temple, like an exorbitant amount of time. And then in that house, she demanded, there be mirrors on the wall, and she was dancing in front of the mirror all the time. With the kids in school, she could get away with a lot.
Mm-hmm. Megan wants to know. She says she's curious, curious on how others felt for Judge Bursky versus Boyce. She says she liked both judges, but she can't picture Boyce having the patience to deal with Lori representing herself. I actually like the Arizona judge better. I felt like he's got it in him a little bit more to go off if needed. Maybe I'm wrong.
He's just like, he was so, our favorite word, nonchalant. He was just kind of like an observer, and he was enforcing the court rules appropriately, and he just kind of side-eyed Lori a lot. I remember that. Everything I've seen, he was just kind of side-eyeing, like, you're really saying that. I like him. I think Boyce put up with a lot of
Mhm.
well, considering Lori wasn't trying to put off the trial because of medication or, not being fit to stand trial.
Hmm.
Boyce had to deal with that, and this judge did not. So he didn't seem fed up with her. Boyce did. That's my take on it.
Hmm.
I'd like to hear
Yeah.
other people's take on that too.
Stephanie says, I think Boyce had to deal with so many more shenanigans from the entire case. I'd agree. The Idaho case had a lot going on.
Oh, yeah.
And then Liz says she personally likes Judge Boyce. Or no, the Arizona judge. Sorry, Boyce. You're losing the unofficial, very small community poll on which judge is the favorite. I don't know who Country Princess is. I see that they're saying yay to her, but I don't know what happened. I feel like StreamYard only shows like some of the comments. It doesn't show me all the comments, so I don't see everything. Lee, I know you already watched Nancy Joe. I've only watched it once. Would you humor me and watch it again, a portion of it, like about a 5-minute clip, so we can talk about that one? Because I only watched it once. Or have you watched it too many times to watch it again? Okay. I don't hear an objection. You might have had to step away. So I'm going to go ahead and flip over. I'm going to take this down so it'll go. And we will watch Nancy, since we have all decided that she was the most interesting witness as far as exchange between Lori and a witness. I'll give her a second to throw it up because I'm not very technically savvy and don't know how to do it. So something else I thought was interesting. I think. Oh, Nancy's gonna go now. Okay, I'll be quiet and let Nancy play.
The divorce, did it surprise you to find that out? You've seen it all on TV where we're not getting divorced.
Okay.
So on the website that you met him, did he say he was divorced?
I'm not certain.
Would you have gone on a date with him if he would have said he was married?
If I would have realized how married he still was, maybe not. But I just met for dinner. I wasn't sleeping with him or anything.
Do you go on dates with married men? Naturally?
Argumentative. I'm going to also object under 611 for harassment.
All right. I'll sustain the objection.
Your Honor, do I not have a right to cross-examine this witness for what she has already testified to?
You can cross-examine her about what she's testified to.
So you did go on a date with a married man,
I went on a date with Charles.
but you did not know he was married.
I knew his divorce was not final.
His divorce was not started.
Okay.
Okay. So in your text messages, you asked Charles if he was a good kisser. Is that correct?
Maybe, sure.
Did he answer that text message?
I'm
gonna
sure.
object to
I'm sure he did.
relevance. Again, 611 harassment.
I'll sustain the objection for relevance and hearsay.
So are you trying to tell me and this jury that you went on one date with my husband and he told you all the details of our lives?
I'm telling you the truth, and that's what I know.
So you spent your whole date getting to know each other, talking about me.
Don't flatter yourself. No, we did not spend the whole time talking about you.
You knew a lot about me, right?
I knew what I've testified to.
What else did you talk about on your date?
Lots of things.
Like what, for instance?
Life, kids, the church, lots of things.
Okay. Did he tell you about anything about our other 4 children?
Yes,
So you knew that we did have 5 children as well?
I did.
Okay. Did he talk to you about my daughter Tylee?
He did.
Did he talk about his relationship with her?
Well, I don't recall that.
Did he talk about the contention in his relationship with my daughter Tylee?
I don't recall that.
I'm sure you don't.
And I'm going to object to comments by the defendant made after questions testifying.
Let's sustain the objection.
On your date, you talked about my husband was a life insurance salesman. Is that correct?
I knew he did something with money and insurance, but I really didn't know the details of what he did for work. Like I said, I don't ask the details about what someone does for work when I'm trying to get to know someone.
But you knew that he sold life insurance. You stated that.
I believe that I had a vague understanding that he did something with insurance.
And then he brought that up again at dinner.
No, we didn't talk about his work at dinner.
I thought you said you did talk about, and correct me if I'm wrong, you said you did talk about that he changed the life insurance policy at dinner.
Well, you were asking me if we talked about that he sold insurance, which that didn't happen. But yes, he did tell me that he changed the beneficiary of his life insurance policy at dinner.
Did he tell you how much his life insurance policy was for?
Yes, he did.
What did he say?
$1 million.
Did he tell you how much my life insurance policy was for?
I do not recall.
You don't recall?
We didn't talk about you very much in that vein.
When did you talk to him about me very much then? If it wasn't at dinner, was it in your text messages?
We were talking about what he was going through in the process of separating from you, not about what your life insurance policy was worth. And we talked about you on the phone. And when I say you, meaning what he was doing as he was going through this separation.
So let me understand. You were dating some different men on this website, right? From the websites.
Sure.
Would you say it was common for men to be talking so much about their supposed ex-wives during their conversations with a potential,
It's actually very common.
really?
Really.
Interesting.
And again, Your Honor, I'm
All right.
going to object to the defendant making comments after her questions. and
I'm
move to
sorry, Your
strike.
Honor. I won't do that again.
All right, please stop.
I'll just ask the questions.
Thank you.
So there were some text messages between you and my husband after the dinner on July 10th. Is that correct?
Correct.
What time would those text messages have occurred?
After dinner,
What time?
10:45-ish.
10:45 to what?
I'm not certain, ma'am. After dinner.
10:45 to midnight, maybe?
I just told you I don't know. Maybe.
What did you discuss in those text messages?
And I'm going to object to relevance again. If there's a specific area.
Sustain.
You testified a minute ago that Charles told you a lot of things about his wife. You didn't say ex-wife, but you said wife. Is that correct?
Okay, sure.
What were a lot of things?
The things that I've testified to.
Can you be more specific?
Am I allowed to do a narrative then?
Let's go on sidebar.
Okay, that was Nancy Joe. She was my favorite, I think, just because it was so obvious that Lori was so bothered by Nancy. She was so jealous, like she didn't have a whole boyfriend that she claimed she had been married to intergalactically numerous times.
Uh, I love how Lori was, she's like the whole really about married men talking about their spouses or divorced men talking about their ex-spouses. Um, here Lori chases people who write weird books.
Yeah,
Ugh.
like she acted like she wasn't sending like love letters to Chad at the same time and sending fake emails pretending to be some woman named Karen, which is kind of fitting because that's what she was, a little courtroom Karen during Nancy's testimony. But she was acting so mad like Charles was doing something so horrible by going to dinner with Nancy. And she was kind of trying to, in a weird way, I felt like she was trying to slut shame Nancy.
She was. She was. And it's the hostility from Nancy was great. Like, shut up. I know what I did. I did nothing wrong.
Yeah, Nancy was not interested in Lori at all. Like she was prepared to beef with Lori. Like I feel like if I wish there had been some sort of phone confrontation between Lori and Nancy privately because I feel like it would have rivaled the Cora horror conversation between Melanie Gibb and Lori.
Absolutely.
Let's see. Liz wants to know if we can do Adam's cross. I don't know because I'm not very techie, so PDM would have to pull it up. So you'd have to ask them. And then Steph B says, can someone tell me why they could not bring up the other conviction? Is it because the actual crime happened after Charles, or is it just because it is a right? I'm not sure if it is because it's a right or not. I haven't watched a lot of the attorney takes on the case. I did watch a little something from Lawyer the other night. But I didn't quite catch why they couldn't. I would guess because of prejudice. They wouldn't want the jury to know she has already been convicted of murder. It's not hard to sway someone if they know you've already done some killing.
Yeah, that's my take too. Is they gotta let her have a fair trial and not mention prior convictions in order for the jury to be unbiased.
Mm-hmm. I always feel bad for juries. Like you're just living your life and all of a sudden you have to sit there for like $15 a day and listen to that kind of SI, shit. Started to spell shit wrong. Not used to spelling them out. I'm used to just saying them. But I mean, I just feel like it's got to be, I mean, at least this one was quick. For Chad's, I was like, oh my gosh, how long is this going to go on? I feel like I would do anything in my power to never serve on a jury. I would say whatever. I would be like, I'm finding him guilty. I would do everything I could to sound like I'm not going to be impartial at all because I do not want to be on it.
I've never received a summons. Well, at least in Arizona. I was already living in Arizona when I got one from Michigan. I'm like, yeah, I'm not going because I'm not a resident. Go away. My one and only chance so far. I could never. I don't think I could ever do it.
I wouldn't want to. I just, especially like this one wasn't a death penalty. I definitely don't have no interest. I mean, I'm sure no one has interest in being on a jury, but I definitely don't think that's my responsibility to make those types of decisions. I don't believe I'm a translated being and I have a light and dark scale where I can decide who's worthy of life.
Mhm.
Well,
Just-
I wondered that too. Stephanie says, I wonder if the jurors had any knowledge of the case prior. I can't imagine them not hearing of her. You live in Arizona. I hope that's all right for me to say. I think you just
yes.
said it. Was there a lot of coverage on just the regular nightly news about Lori, or
Um,
was
Justin Lem did cover it quite a bit. ABC 15 did cover it quite a bit, uh, in spurts, especially with Chad's trial and Lori's trial in Idaho. It was discussed. There were special segments, special airings about trial updates and the outcome during the investigations. It was kind of quiet about Charles's death, though, until recently.
Mhm. Do you
But
feel like most of the media was about the kids in the Idaho case?
oh yeah, absolutely. It was more about the kids, but then there was they did highlight Charles's death and how everything did seem suspicious, and they were still investigating that. No further details available because of the ongoing investigation. Blah blah blah. But it was on the news quite a bit. Not daily, of course, but it was especially during the trials in Idaho. There were always briefs, updates every day. Even if it was just like a 10-second little snippet on the news, it was on the news. I don't watch the news as often as I used to, but I do get it in news feeds. I do see it like on Facebook, or I see clippings on TikTok, or even when I'm on Google, things pop up. And most likely it's the algorithm following what I'm doing online. But
Mm-hmm.
I would say there's certain communities, um, there are, I'm not saying racial communities, I'm going to say income wise, that don't watch the news, or they're so self-absorbed that they don't really catch everything that's going on. Kind of like they're in a bubble. So that could be why they found people who haven't heard of the case, but it's been known. And even when I mention it once in a while at work, I'm like, "Hey, did you hear about this or whatever?" People are
Mm-hmm.
like, "Oh, I heard about that." But they don't I don't think they really understand what it's about. They just said it was just kind of weird. Um, so there are people, I do believe there are people that haven't heard of it, but for the most part, because I know about it, my husband knows about it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's always in my face, and I notice it. And even if I don't catch the news, my husband will say, "Hey, there's an update on the trial on the news. Come see it," or he'll find it online and send me a link. So I think it's because everything is on the internet more now than it used to be. People don't
Mm-hmm.
see it as much. But yeah, it was a big thing back in December when the kids were missing. It was all over the news here.
Back in December 5 years ago.
Oh yeah, because I remember.
Actually, yeah, that would have been almost 6 years ago. Well, I mean,
Yeah,
I guess
when
not till December it won't be, but
but well, yeah, when they showed Chad and Lori's faces up on TV, I'm like, well, they look like an odd couple. Yeah, something is suspicious immediately. It just
are you are you saying that because he was like so dorky with his plaid Costco
a
shirts on?
frumpy looking lurch potato. Um, yeah, he just looked they total opposites as far as looks. I mean, people can be a couple and be opposites, but it was just kids are missing from Arizona, and this woman and her new husband. People are looking for this woman and her new husband. They're searching for them, and I'm just looking at the photos, going, "That's not right." She's
Mhm.
from Chandler Gilbert area, and she moved to Idaho, and the kids haven't been seen or heard from. It's just weird.
Mhm.
I just initially it was weird, and God, how do people not know about that? Well, there's other cases. There was one recently. Um, Not a lot of people have heard about a teenager that went missing from a group home, and I'm surprised that hasn't made national news. A lot of communities in Arizona are under fire right now because, well, look at Gilbert Police. They initially, when Charles was shot, I think they didn't look further into it. They're going by word of mouth, and then they did their, investigation. But when it started going into deeper details of looking at emails and phone calls and text messages and stuff, they realized it was far more than what they were looking at.
Mhm.
And yeah, Gilbert's got a lot of problems. I think every city does, but Gilbert's got a lot of problems.
Yeah. I think when I initially heard about the case, I think I agree. I immediately knew something wasn't right. I think I was holding out hope that the kids were in some sort of weird doomsday bunker. But as the days started going on and, you know, the local residents of Hawaii were hilarious. They were better than TMZ. They were posting them at Costco, at urgent care. I mean, people of Hawaii wanted them off that island so bad. They were tipping off media, everyone, hey, they're here. They were not messing around with Lori and Chad. They were making it very uncomfortable for them while they were there. But I think about the time that the judge put out, I don't remember what it was called, but it was like an order to produce JJ,
Yes.
and they didn't, or they were ignoring it or acting like it was no big deal. It was pretty obvious at that point that something was definitely wrong beyond the kids being in a bunker somewhere. I mean, that was at the same time that Julie Rowe was going live from her car and swearing she could see them in her visions, just getting on everyone's last nerve.
Mm. Julie Rowe. But see, like Hawaii, all of Hawaii, they didn't want them there. They knew who they were. They watched the news, and even if
Mhm.
they didn't watch it, they were seeing it somewhere, and they were outing them like, "Hey, here's your people that you're looking for. There's no kids, so something's up."
Right.
But it's like, I don't know. Maybe it's because Lori was so involved in the church, like always at the church and never really out and about doing, being public, that people here didn't really notice anything. And
Mhm.
that's going back to the whole jury selection thing, because people live in bubbles, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, we had our little groups of people that were digging through all of their podcasts. Like, there was that Denise Rainey chick that sadly passed away, but she was one of the earlier YouTubers. And she was able to pull a lot of those preparing a people
Mm,
podcasts that they had. She was smart enough to grab all of those.
yeah, they
Um,
disappeared fast too.
yeah, she had them archived, but um, everyone was, I mean, they just gave everyone so much to dig around on. Just all their weird podcast and books to read. It was something else. Like we all hated them even before we knew what actually happened because they were just that unlikable. It was
Oh
just a
yeah.
big cluster of unlikable people, which, a lot of people don't like me too, but it's not because I'm writing weird books. and murdering folks and all
Smashing
the
bees.
yeah, all the other weird things they were doing. Okay, let's listen to Adam. You haven't had a chance yet, and PDM found it. So let's listen to Adam really quick and we'll react to that. And if no one calls in, we'll kind of wrap up.
Mr. Cox, how long has it been since we've seen each other in person?
Don't know.
When was the last time you saw me?
I don't recall.
So has it been a year, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, 6
Something like
years,
that.
7 years, 8 years?
Something.
Okay. So you have no idea.
Nope.
You have no idea when the last time you saw me in person.
I don't know the year or how many years it's been.
Okay. So did you see me at Colby's wedding in January 2018?
No, I was not there.
You didn't come to Colby's wedding.
No, I did not.
So did you see me sometime that year at my house
Possibly.
where Colby got married? That house,
I did see you at that house. Yes.
at least one time.
Yes.
So possibly in 2018.
Yes.
And when was the last time we had any communications?
The last time I remember our communications was you and I were speaking in the kitchen when the family was over.
Okay. So you think that was that time in 2018?
I think so.
Okay. And were we eating my green chili chicken enchiladas?
Do not remember that.
You do not remember that?
Nope.
Is that what I made every time we had a family get together, which was like 10 times a year?
I don't remember that.
Okay. And when was the last time that we had a phone call or text message?
I have no idea.
Could it possibly be around that exact same time?
Possibly.
Okay. So that was possibly in early 2018?
Yes.
Okay. Who do you think initiated the final communication in our relationship?
Who concluded it?
Yeah.
I don't know.
So right now it's 2025, is that correct?
Yes.
And so we haven't spoken in about 8 years. Would that be correct?
Probably 7 or 8 years.
Okay. So would you say up until that point that how often would we communicate before that?
Before what?
Before 2018?
Probably on a regular basis. Once a month, twice a month, 3 times a month.
Like a call or a text message?
Yes.
Just keeping in touch?
Yes.
You know of us living in Hawaii and you were living in Kansas at the time?
Yes.
And in your career, you lived in lots of different places. Is that correct?
Yes.
Austin,
Yes.
Dallas,
Yes.
New York,
Yes.
Wichita,
Yes.
Sacramento.
Yes.
Did I miss anything?
Others.
And I was in Texas,
Yes.
Arizona,
Yes.
Hawaii.
Yes.
So would you say that we were not physically close during the past 20 years?
Yes, I would say that.
So our communication would be solely family get-togethers, occasional text messages. Is that correct?
And phone calls, yes.
Okay. So, Mr. Cox, did you see or hear or personally witness me conspire with my brother Alex Cox to murder my husband Charles Vallow?
Repeat that again?
Okay. Did you see with your eyes or hear with your ears or personally witness me conspire with my brother Alex Cox to murder my husband Charles Vallow?
No.
Thank you. No more questions.
Redirect?
Have you talked to your sister since Charles was shot and killed?
No.
So since that happened, you cut off all communications with her?
Yes.
Prior to that, you were being asked about 2018 being at Lori and Charles's house. Was that the time where Lori told you she was becoming a celestial being?
Yes.
And the time where she was telling you other ideas that were not in line with the LDS faith?
Yes.
After you had heard those statements by your sister, you told us that she had asked you if you thought she was crazy, right?
Yes.
And you had responded back how?
I don't know if you're crazy, but what you're telling me is not true.
After you told her that her beliefs were not true, did that sort of end your talking with her?
Yes.
You were asked if you personally saw, heard your sister Lori conspire to kill Charles. Were you there that morning?
No.
Were you the person who was supposed to, though, be with Alex on the 10th into the morning of the 11th? You spent the night with him?
If I would have spent the night with him, yes.
So that stood out to you because you had made plans with your brother, right?
Yes.
And instead, you learned he was at Lori's house.
Yes.
You told us that you thought it was odd that your brother would be over at your sister's house at 7:30 in the morning.
Yes.
And you were aware that your brother had guns.
Yes.
Charles was going there to pick up JJ, right?
Yes.
And so did it seem odd to you that your brother would bring a gun that was loaded with extra magazines that was not safe to your sister's house where JJ was?
Objection, out of scope. This is not just
Goes to the
a
conspiracy.
redirect. This is not just a redirect.
Hey, I didn't ask for argument. Okay. The objection's overruled.
What's the question?
Sure. Did it stand out to you that your brother, who knew JJ, would bring a loaded gun and extra ammunition to the house where JJ was running around?
Well,
It
I didn't know at the time.
Yeah.
You're saying afterwards?
Yeah, you learned afterwards your brother killed him, right?
Yes.
And when we're talking about this conspiracy and things that are going on, did that seem odd to you that your brother would bring a loaded gun and extra ammunition in this unsafe way to a house where your sister's son, JJ, lived?
Yeah, it seems extreme.
When you were talking to your family after this happened, did you actually tell them that you believed that Lori and Alex had conspired to kill Charles?
Yes.
Why was that?
because Lori had told people that Charles was no longer living, that some guy named Ned was inside of his body, that there was a zombie living inside of him. And Alex didn't respond to any of my text messages when I was supposed to be with him. And he was at that house that morning. Lori talking crazy about how she's a translated being. All these things all added up into that moment and that morning. Once I found out on Saturday that Charles was shot and killed, no doubt in my mind that they killed him. That's a feeling that I got.
And you told your family that.
Yes.
No other questions.
The last line of questioning from the possession of the gun on, I think the defendant's right, was technically beyond the scope of her cross. So based on that, I'll allow the defendant, if she wants to recross on those issues, if she elects to, may do so now.
No questions, Your Honor.
All right, are there any questions from any member of the jury? Not seeing any, sir, you can step down. You can step down. Thanks. State can call its next witness.
Thank you.
I thought it was funny how Lori was saying he was out of scope and like objecting, but then when he gave her the opportunity to redirect again, she didn't have any questions. It's like she was, go ahead, Lee.
She knew she was caught. I mean, not being able to, how is she going to come back from that? Adam straight up called her freaking crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why.
Oh, your enchiladas suck too, lady. What the heck?
Yeah, that's why he was my favorite witness for the state, just because he was not dealing with her. And I think she thought she had a gotcha moment by pointing out that they didn't live by one another and they weren't super close. But he was like, yeah, we weren't because you were crazy. So there's that.
Now, I've seen other people comment in TCU about Lori trying to testify, or, is this one of those moments because she kept saying, you lived here, you lived here, you lived here. Okay, so he could not see day to day what was going on, but she was happily married for 13 years, and all of a sudden she's not, and Charles is dead because they had an argument and Alex was defending her. I mean, yeah, that looked bad on her, for her. So what the heck?
Mm-hmm.
Was she trying to testify?
She was trying to testify in portions, but I think it was more so with her little comments. Like after Nancy, she would be like, interesting. And I think that was kind of more what I saw. I know she got in trouble for trying to testify a couple times, but I can't remember off the top of my head what exactly she was doing. Maybe someone in chat remembers specifics of times that she was testifying. When I was listening to that, though, with Adam, and they were talking about how it was odd that Alex stayed the night with her, which the whole thing was odd, but it did all look very premeditated when I say odd. But it reminded me that during Alex's questioning, I think it was with Gilbert, they asked him, like, why did you stay here? And he was like, we were going to do something fun. Like he was a little kid. It's like, okay, well, you lived like 11 minutes away. Most adults don't just stay the night because they have plans the next day to do something fun, unless you live like quite a distance. So
I
it's like
can
a
understand
really
if, yeah, in Arizona, especially in the Metro Phoenix area, if you like Lori's in Gilbert and if he lived in Phoenix, that's a little bit of a drive. It's not a huge drive, but it's like 30, 40 minutes depending on traffic and all the other stuff. Early in the morning, it's not an issue, but I could see him going there to stay the night. But at the same time, if you're not getting up early enough in the morning to go do something fun, why are you there? It's not like you're rolling out of bed to go do something. It is weird.
Mhm.
They'd be dumb.
I'm interested to see and listen to her closing argument and
Oh,
what
yeah.
she's going to say. Because that's the weird part about opening and closing. Like we see in her opening, she had all these statements, the evidence will show. It's like, no, it didn't, Lori. The evidence didn't show majority of what you claimed it was going to show. And majority of what you claimed were just irrelevant things. Like the fact that Charles is 13 years older than you. What does that have to do with anything? Stephanie B says, no coming back from your brother saying you're crazy. You did it. And no one ate your shitty food. Mhm. That's exactly true. No one liked her enchiladas. We have someone trying to call in. Let's
Admit it. That's
help them. I'm trying to think of I mean, I know I keep saying I was disappointed that Melanie Gibb wasn't there. I'm thinking about starting a like verdict poll, like where people can bet for nothing more than bragging rights till the end of time in the group. So nothing spectacular, no cash prize because I'm poor, but I'm just saying they can I'm gonna create something maybe tomorrow night. I don't know. It's gonna depend on how Easter goes and what I feel like, but or you can guess like to the minute what time, like you do when a baby's born, like how long, like what time you think the jury's gonna come back, and if you think it's gonna be guilty or not guilty, and we'll have a winner for
yeah.
bragging rights.
Let's do it with a photo of green chili chicken enchiladas. That's the prize.
Mm-hmm. Liz says if the end of time happens before the verdict, she's gonna be so mad.
We haven't heard any predictions lately, have we?
No, I think Julie Rowe was throwing some out a couple weeks ago, like within the last few weeks. She's always throwing out something or other. Oh, we have a caller. We have a new caller.
Ooh.
Let's see. I'm going to add to the stage. I'm like narrating what I'm doing so they're not surprised. Someone says hunches on how long the verdict will last. I don't have any hunches, but I'm hoping there's a little bit of deliberation so that I can watch it. Because if it happens very, very quickly, I won't be available to watch. So I'm hoping that the closing arguments and the jury instructions eat up some time selfishly, so that I can watch the verdict come in. I wonder if she'll go on like another speech during her sentencing, like she did at her last sentencing. I don't know why. It'll just enrage everyone because last time she claimed she was, BFFs with Tammy and all kinds of ridiculous things that you have to think, like, especially seeing her in this trial, like, she was being mean. Like, she was being cruel. She has enough sense to know where she's at and what's going on, that she's representing herself and not say she did the best job, but she didn't do the worst job. So she has to just be, I mean, we already know she's a horrible person, but I just have to think she was doing that at the sentencing to be an a-hole.
Oh yeah, digging at her brother, digging at Nancy Joe.
No, I'm talking about at her. Oh yeah, I get what you're saying now. Yeah, she was like with it enough to dig at people, but
Right.
at her sentencing in Idaho, she acted like she was truly insane with the claims she was making. Okay, so Megan just called in, so we will transition a bit to give her an opportunity to go off about her thoughts on the trial or case in general. I started off asking Lee, what's the one thing about the case that bugs her the most?
Sorry, can you hear me?
We can.
Okay, sorry, I think I had it on mute. So I don't know if it's like the one thing that bothers me about the trial, but I wanted to jump in and talk about something that I haven't seen discussed a lot. Adam waited how many days before he knew that Charles had passed away? Does anyone find that to be somewhat odd that his last text message to Charles was that morning about how Alex and Lori were up to something? And then he waits, what, 4 days, and he has a friend Google Charles's name to find out that he was deceased.
Mm-hmm.
Does anyone else find that to be like weird that there was no follow-up texts or calls between Adam and Charles in those couple of days?
I do think it was weird. Um, I think I keep trying in my brain to kind of chalk it up to like Lori and Charles having one of those like really annoying marriage and relationships where they were getting back together all the time and people were just kind of over it. But it is weird that in one sense, he didn't reach out, but then he also had someone Google Charles. So, yeah, you're right. That's weird.
I don't know why I was thinking it was the next day that Adam realized it. Maybe it was Colby that realized it the next day what had happened. Either way, there's so many people that found out different bits of information about Charles after the fact, and they were all lies. And it, who knows? I mean, if Adam was supposed to meet up with Charles that day, why didn't he seek him out? Or were there other things, were there other things going? It doesn't matter. You're supposed to be meeting up with somebody and you don't, so you're just going to blow it off? No, especially if you make the statement, they're up to something. That's like urgent to me.
Right.
It would be, especially when you know that your sister is a little kooky and has these odd beliefs. And from talk and my understanding off and on in TCU is that Alex had a traumatic brain injury at some point and he wasn't quite all there. He just, obviously, if he goes after an ex husband with his taser, um, maybe that says a lot about me. I don't know. But it would, to me, it would be like, I need to go find him, find out what's going on, talk to my sister, talk to my brother, figure out what's up. Haven't heard anything, radio silent. What happened? That
Do you think
is
he was
weird.
afraid that if he reached out that he would have gotten that news? Like, do you think there was a sense that he knew there was an impending doom coming and that part of the reason he didn't reach out was maybe he was scared? Because I get a feeling like kind of like what Colette said, where they had like a weird relationship, Charles and Lori, where you don't want to like interfere on your family's drama. But I often wonder if it was fear based that he was like, I feel like something bad happened and I don't want to know yet, or I'm not prepared to hear the news yet. Just to have like your buddy Google his name just seems so bizarre to me. Like, why didn't it Adam himself Google Charles Vallow?
Watching him in the when he's there, being questioned, you could see it was heartbreaking. I think maybe he had a feeling that something had happened, and that's why he didn't reach out. Different type of personality.
Well, he did say, if you think back to the text messages in the morning when Charles said, Alex is here, didn't he say it's a setup or this sounds like a setup or something like that?
Yeah, that would be a red flag.
So, I mean, I would agree that it's a little odd because he thought it was a setup. And didn't the police, like when they testified, didn't they say, like he did text Charles at least once, I think, about basketball or like trying to meet up with the bishop somewhere, and that Lori or Alex read the text messages or text message, but I don't think it said there were more beyond just the one, right?
I don't remember now.
I was trying to think. I don't remember.
I think I remember that at least one was about basketball or like going to play basketball or going to a gym or something like that. And that he was going to try to meet up with the bishop. But I think that whole thing is interesting too. I mean, I get it. Like, it wasn't entered into evidence in the trial, where Charles had, which that was a little odd to me, by the way. I don't understand why they didn't enter that into evidence. That body cam footage of Charles, like explaining to the police that like Lori had been off medication for years, her mental health had continued to decline, and he kind of shared some of her like visions and how she thought Moroni was her boyfriend and coming and visiting her and all that weird stuff that was in the body cam footage. They didn't enter that into evidence, and I was surprised. I expected to see that, but it was interesting to me that like Charles had tried to get her that evaluation that her and Melanie Gibb went to, and she allegedly passed with flying colors, which apparently she did because they didn't take her in. But like none of those things were working, and they were like, let's ask the bishop. Like, this bishop's gonna get her lined out.
I'm just wondering if it was the same bishop of her church or if it was a different bishop.
No, I don't think it was that Gabe Benella. Is that how you say his name? I don't think it was him, because I think I remember there being a name. I just don't remember what it was, and it was not Gabe, but he was also very unhelpful in the body cam footage with Charles, where he was not co-signing. He was basically like, it's fine. What she said was fine. She didn't mean it.
She's a dreamer. Let her dream. That's what it reminded me of.
Stephanie May said in chat, they said it would have been hearsay. They said that the body cam footage would have been hearsay with Charles and the police. Because I feel like I'm not surprised because they rule weird things hearsay, but to me, that's recorded. So that would not be hearsay. He made an accusation on a recording, on a video. That happened.
So my question regarding that Charles body cam footage, how would they have presented that to the jury though? Because doesn't someone have to be on the stand to testify and back it up? Or
Well, I would assume they could have gotten one of the police officers that
that's true.
were there, like part of that conversation, to be like, yeah, we met with him in this hotel parking lot. And these are, like verifying that it was an accurate recording.
Right. That's true.
But I don't watch enough trials to really, and it seems like they vary from state to state. I don't watch enough trials to be confident in why they are doing things and not doing things.
things. Sorry, got stuck on the word things.
Liz says she personally doesn't think that the mental health evaluation is like what we're thinking. They did more of like a crisis intervention health evaluation to see if she was suicidal or on the verge of committing suicide. Yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah, because for her to be able to walk in and walk back out and say everything was fine, according to Melanie Gibb, um, yeah, it wasn't like a full. And even if she did a full evaluation, she probably knows how to get out of that. If she's been on medication for years and she's had to go through different sessions for years, she knows how to play the game. A lot of people who have mental health issues that don't want to be bogged down with the medications, and they self-medicate, will find ways. They know how to play the system. They know how to get out of things, get out of being committed, or they know what to say. They know what the counselor wants to hear.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that. She was crazier than hell for a long time, though. I know a lot of people have known her, and I understand they know her well and in real life, and they all say she was this excellent mother and great person. But if you go all the way back to the documents with Joe Ryan and their issues, there was an evaluation in there from, I don't know, guardian ad litem or someone who in that document, like towards the end, they mentioned that like Lori thought that Tylee was her dead sister Stacy and was coming to visit her, and that she like saw angels or something weird. I don't remember exactly. It's been probably 4 years since I read those documents, but it was very strange. Megan, who was your favorite witness for the state that you watched?
I would definitely have to agree with Nancy Joe. I liked her feistiness and how she didn't just take Lori's crap and her comebacks. I don't know how I would have reacted if I was her on the stand and had Lori coming at me like with those little comments under her breath. Like, I don't know. I don't know. I think she did well. I think she was definitely my favorite. I didn't watch everyone's testimony, but out of who I did watch, it was definitely Nancy Joe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think no one can beat Nancy Joe. Maybe we'll see someone at Brandon's trial that's feisty, but we don't know if she'll represent herself. But I definitely thought that Lori had an idea of how that would go with Nancy Joe. You know, I'm gonna slut shame her about being on these dating apps, talking to all these married men, and Nancy like did not flinch. She was like, "Would you have dated him if you knew I was married?" And Nancy's like, "I might have." Like she didn't even say no. And you know, Lori was thinking like she's gonna say no. Like I'm gonna rattle her with that. And Nancy's like, maybe I would, maybe I wouldn't.
I'm going to take your man.
Mhm. Yeah. It is everything Lori tried. She was like, is it normal for married men or for men to talk about their exes? She's like, oh yeah, very normal. Hmm.
Oh, really? That got me. Really?
Hmm. I did miss, like when we replayed it, it didn't show the part about Nancy explaining how she knew Adam. But I could tell that got under Lori's skin as well. That Nancy had seen him on a dating app.
Oh, yeah. Um, she confronted Adam on the dating app. If you're gonna be on here, use your actual profile, not. And she named his radio personality,
Mhm.
and that's how she. It was like a brief interaction with him. A small
Mhm.
world, really. But what was he doing on a dating app? Weren't he and Nicole still married at the time? Or
I
was
don't
this
know.
after Charles?
I
Was
don't
this
remember. I think it was after Charles, but I don't really have the timeline. I've not like paid much attention to when Adam and his wife actually separated.
right?
I didn't follow them like personally like that to know when that happened. So, but I just assumed when I heard it, it was after they separated, but maybe not. Maybe Nancy was getting in there having some dinner. I don't know. I better not say that. I feel like Nancy's feisty. She might show up in the comment sections and be pissed.
I would love to be friends with Nancy. I would love it.
You know, Charles must like his women kind of feisty. Do any of you remember back? It would have been in June or July of 2020 because it was not long. I'm thinking it was around the time period that the kids were discovered on Tad's property. Do any of you remember that other wife of Charles Vallows? I don't remember her name, but she came out. I think
Carol.
it was no, it wasn't Cheryl. It was another wife.
Oh,
And she
His
came
first
out.
wife with the
Yeah,
lingerie photos in the magazine.
yes.
oh, that
Yes.
one.
She was like in Touch magazine, I don't know, but she had like the full sultry lingerie photos. Like, what is this? This is about two missing kids, and what are you doing? What?
I think I think, you know, I got such a kick out of that because it was like you couldn't make this stuff up, you know? Like I'm sure they asked her for a photo and she's like, "Let me send you my best ones ever." And she sent those, yes, lingerie photos. That's exactly where I was going, Megan. I was like when I saw Nancy and they were going back and forth, it reminded me of that incident or moment in the case when that article came out with those pictures.
Well, to be fair, Charles was Catholic before he met Lori. They tend to find the feisty women.
Catholic women are feisty?
Apparently,
Well, he just
I
has
grew
a
up.
he just has a type.
I grew up in a Catholic family, and no comment.
You're not going to speak about your own people, huh?
Nah.
um yeah, I'm interested to see where Lori goes with her closing argument. How long do you think it'll take the jury, if you have to guess, or are you going to save your vote for the actual poll?
I'm gonna say 30 minutes.
Oh, you're thinking quick.
Yeah.
Does anyone remember how long it took the Idaho jury to come back on Lori? I think I'm going to go with like 3.5 hours. So you're going to say, I'm going to say 3 hours longer than you. You say 30 minutes. I'm going to say 3 hours and 30 minutes.
Okay.
And I think they'll be guilty. I don't think she's going to evade the charge.
Oh no, I don't either. Especially after Kay said, can talk to JJ after this, date.
Mm-hmm. I'm curious. I don't think they've released the witness list for Brandon. I am curious to know if she's going to defend herself in that case as well, because she's pushing them forward so quickly. And wouldn't we know if she had counsel? I guess we wouldn't, but maybe I just missed it.
Now I wish I would have watched every single day.
No, it wasn't. It wasn't. I don't think you missed a lot. I think we kind of covered some of the bigger pieces. There were the bamboo shirt thing was kind of funny to watch just because Lori gets hung up on these strange details and digs in like it's actually something.
The claim of a bamboo being indestructible. That's what it
Mhm.
came off as. It's like, no, bamboo is highly destructible. I had bamboo sheets that ripped within a month of having them, so
Yeah.
whatever.
Well, and I think she just thought she was just, you know, Johnny Cochran, and she would ask these stupid ass questions, and it never went the way she thought it was going to go. Like there was one expert that she asked him what size the hole was, and he was like bullet sized. I mean, everyone was just slinging back at her because she was asking the dumbest shit, and you don't see other lawyers getting embarrassed like that when they're trying to question very often, but it seemed like almost every witness got her at least once.
And now I'm wondering if Mark Means was counseling her from afar. That just
I
seems like
miss
a Mark Means question.
I always found him entertaining. Maybe it was the face mask thing that he used to wear in court.
Oh God.
He did the same thing, he would have those motions with all the errors in it, and it's like, I this case at times, not the crime itself, but the characters around it, it seems like a sitcom. Like these are Seinfeld characters or something. Like you can't even believe these people are serious.
I just remember, I think it was a still from a video but he was sitting in his office and the bullhorns were above his head. It looked like the horns were on his head
Yeah, he had those antlers behind him.
or something. I just remember seeing how goofy he looked. It's like it was intentional. Uh,
I don't I mean, the Idaho trials were longer. I would say they probably seemed a little more professional in some ways and methodical, but I would have to say maybe it was the shortness of the Arizona trial, but it definitely seemed a little more interesting.
well, yeah, there were a lot more details considering the kids were involved. Chad was involved. Alex was involved. And here it's just, excuse me, here it's just like Lori and Alex, who's no longer here. Mainly it's just Lori. But when you
Mhm.
have a multitude of players involving the kids and trying to find out what happened, yeah, that was drawn out. It was drawn out for Lori and Chad.
Mhm.
This one's just quick.
Yeah, definitely this judge kept it on track. I'm a little curious with Lori not testifying. I did kind of expect her to, and not calling any witnesses. I know she had that issue around them not being served, and so they basically didn't have to show up for her because she didn't serve them with the appropriate notice. But I do have to wonder if she thinks she did better than she did.
Oh, I'm
Like,
sure she believes it.
I did not expect her to let it rest, which I'm glad she did. I was a little concerned for some of the victims that she was just, dragging them up there to just be ridiculous and going to try to traumatize them, as I'm sure it's traumatizing that your family member or someone you knew could do the horrible things that Lori did, especially since it sounds like pretty much everyone except for Adam thought she was a good person. It sounds like April Raymond and some of them kind of got a clue that she was off, but for the most part, people thought she was a nice lady. I I am deeply saddened, I'll say it for the 20th time on this live. I'm deeply saddened that she didn't call Melanie Gibb. I really hoped at least Lori would call Melanie Gibb and we would get to see them argue, because I hoped Lori would give a little more clues and details around Melanie's role in all of this, because I just feel like Lori's vindictive that way. But I guess that wouldn't have helped her any to get into the specifics with Melanie.
It probably would have been another, like you said earlier, a whole Corey horror argument that it would be interesting to see how much Melanie Gibb changes her statements, because she's changed them quite a bit from the very beginning.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she's definitely fishing around. She has no good story around what happened. Like, even her alibis suck. Like, we lured him into the house and then we took his phone and it made him mad. Therefore, we had to shoot him. It's like, that doesn't help you. That doesn't sound good at all.
No.
All right. It's getting fairly late here. I don't know if it's earlier or later where you are, but I appreciate you coming on and sharing your thoughts and making fun of Lori. I think we'll do it again after her closing statements, because I'm sure
Yes.
we'll have a lot of thoughts around whatever BS she tries to serve everyone during that closing.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for having me on.
No problem. Thanks for joining, everyone. We will see you next time. So after the closing, we'll see you again. If you're interested in betting on the jury bet, that will be posted in True Crime Underground. It's a Facebook group. So Pink Dino Media says closing is Monday. So we will see you guys Monday night to react to her closing statement and the verdict. Hopefully the verdict will be back in by then. But thanks for coming, everyone, and go make your bets on how long the jury will deliberate and what the outcome will be.
Yay.